It's September the 8th. Let's read the Bible. Friends, I am excited because today we are starting a brand new book of the Bible. We yesterday finished 2 Corinthians. Today we're going to hop backwards to the Old Testament to one of my favorite books of the Bible, the book of Ecclesiastes. So welcome. Remember, this is from Genesis to Revelation in just 1 year. And here we are, month of September the 8th, starting a brand new book. It's just fantastic. You know, for a long time about Ecclesiastes, when people have said to me, Pastor, what's your favorite book of the Bible? I have often said, without any hesitation, it's the book of Ecclesiastes. Now, I don't know it. I don't know if I would hang on to that because there's a lot of great books, and well, they're all great. They're all true and they're all good. And some of them just speak to us in different ways. The book of Daniel, in recent years, I spent a long time in teaching the book of Daniel, and then book of Galatians, book of Revelation, book of Romans, book of Joshua, all of them so tremendous. But 2 Corinthians, we just finished. Love that book. But maybe I would say book of Ecclesiastes is my favorite book because, I have said sometimes this is the truest book in the Bible. Well, they're all true. The Bible is the Word of God. But when I call it the truest book, I suppose what I really mean is this is the book that penetrates to the heart of the human condition. Though this book was written by Solomon in about the year 935 BC, I realize that's a little bit of a controversial statement, but I'm convinced it's by Solomon. I think it doesn't make a lot of sense unless we think that Solomon wrote this book near the end of his life. You know, Solomon, I think maybe Song of Solomon in the early years and maybe Proverbs in the middle years, but Ecclesiastes maybe in the last years of his life, given he learned a lot and he had sought for wisdom and meaning in a lot of different ways. And I think this is an old man looking back in some degree on his own mistakes, giving his own answers. Well, I found this book on my bookshelf, Something New Under the Sun, Ancient Wisdom for Contemporary Living. It's got my name on the cover. Hard to find this book anymore because it's out of print. Moody Press did it back in 1998. And I was going to read a couple of paragraphs. Honestly, as I was getting ready for this reading today, I hadn't looked at my own book in years, but I pulled it out, and this is what part of the introduction. Not long ago, a friend told me with great conviction that Ecclesiastes was written by Solomon when he was in a backslidden spiritual condition. Having worked through the book myself, I can understand and partly sympathize with those sentiments. There are some statements in Ecclesiastes that are extremely hard to understand. I know that some people consider Ecclesiastes the most controversial book in the Bible. However, I believe that when the whole context of the book is taken into account, it will be discovered that Solomon was a man of faith who leads his readers on a voyage through some of the backwater regions of life that we all think about but don't discuss in public. He isn't afraid to ask the hard questions and to admit when there are no easy answers. Since most of us like answers, simple, clear ones if possible, Solomon's words can sometimes seem very frustrating. I would submit that there is nothing in Ecclesiastes that truly contradicts the rest of the Bible when we understand that Solomon is looking at life under the sun. That is, from a horizontal or earthly perspective, he simply wants to know, what can we learn about the meaning of life by observing the world around us? The answer is, we can know a great deal, but many mysteries remain. And this, in the end, I think Solomon is writing a kind of Old Testament apologetics in which he invites the secular person to join him on a search for ultimate truth. I wrote those words 25 years ago. They seem truer to me today than when in the day when I wrote them. That this is Old Testament apologetics. he's asking the question, what is it that we can know about life and about God if we just start on the horizontal level and begin to search out what we see around us? In fact, I'm going to say, here is a very simple outline of the book, chapters 1 through 6, the quest for the meaning of life. Chapters 7, 8, 9, and 10, the limitations on the quest. Life itself gives us some limitations. We can only know so much. And finally, we come to the answer, the end of the quest in chapters 11 and 12. The quest, the limitation, and the final answer, 1 through 6 and 7 through 10, and finally 11 and 12. And one other thing, and then we're just going to jump into this book. There's a word that appears over and over again, vanity, the King James translates it, futility, meaninglessness. So, you know how you kids blow the soap bubbles, take that thing, take that little round thing and dip it in the soap bubbles, and the soap bubbles, they float away, and then they pop. That's what life gives us, a bunch of soap bubbles. Vanity of vanities. All is vanity. Everything seems futile and meaningless. So what is the real purpose of life? Let's jump in and let's just read the first 3 chapters and see what the Lord will show us. Chapter 1, the words of the teacher, son of David, king of Jerusalem. Absolute futility, says the teacher. Absolute futility. Everything is futile. What does a person gain for all his efforts that he labors at under the sun? A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets. Panting, it hurries back to the place where it rises, gusting to the north, turning to the south, turning goes the wind, and the wind returns in its cycles. All the streams flow to the sea, yet the sea is never full. To the place where the streams flow, there they flow again. All things are wearisome, more than anyone can say. The eye is not satisfied by seeing, or the ear filled with hearing. What has been is what will be. What has been done is what will be done. There is nothing new under the sun. Can one say about anything, look, this is new? It has already existed in the ages before us. There is no remembrance of those who came before, and of those who came after, there will also be no remembrance by those who follow them. Remember, I just pause here to say, he's talking about the routine of life and the monotony of life, and that the seasons change and the years come and go. We're born, we live, and we die, we're buried, and eventually we're forgotten. That's life on the horizontal level. Nothing untrue about that. Keep reading. Now he's going to talk about his own experience. I, the teacher, have been king over Israel in Jerusalem. I applied my mind to examine and explore through wisdom all that is done under heaven. God has given people this miserable task to keep them occupied. I have seen all the things that are done under the sun and have found everything to be futile, a pursuit, a chasing of the wind. What is crooked cannot be straightened. What is lacking cannot be counted. I said to myself, see, I have amassed wisdom far beyond all who were over Jerusalem before me, and my mind has thoroughly grasped wisdom and knowledge. I applied my mind to know wisdom and knowledge, madness and folly. I learned that this too is a pursuit, a chasing of the wind. For with much wisdom is much sorrow. As knowledge increases, grief increases. If you think just by learning more, you will find the key to happiness, no, you will not. Ecclesiastes 2. I said to myself, go ahead, I will test you with pleasure. Enjoy what is good, but it turned out to be futile. I said about laughter, it is madness, and about pleasure, what does this accomplish? I explored with my mind the pull of wine on my body. Some people would say it would be alcohol and drugs. My mind still guiding me with wisdom and how to grasp folly until I could see what is good for people to do under heaven during the few days of their lives. I increased my achievements. This is Solomon talking. I built houses and planted vineyards for myself. Remember, he built the great temple in Jerusalem. I made gardens and parks for myself and planted every kind of fruit tree in them. I constructed reservoirs for myself from which to irrigate a grove of flourishing trees. Yeah, he did that. You can see some of it today in Israel, the remains of it. I acquired male and female servants and had slaves who were born in my house. I also owned livestock, large herds and flocks, more than all who were before me in Jerusalem. I also amassed silver and gold for myself, big portfolio, and the treasure of kings and provinces. I gathered male and female singers for myself and many concubines, the delights of men. So I became great and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. My wisdom also remained with me. All that my eyes desired, I did not deny them. I did not refuse myself any pleasure, for I took pleasure in all my struggles. This was my reward for all my struggles. When I considered all that I had accomplished and what I had labored to achieve, I found everything to be futile and a pursuit of the wind. There was nothing to be gained under the sun. Then I turned to consider wisdom, madness, and folly. For what will the king's successor be like? He will do what has already been done. And I realized that there is an advantage to wisdom over folly, like the advantage of light over darkness. The wise person has eyes in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. And I pause here to say, that does sound like the Solomon of Proverbs, doesn't it? The wise person has eyes, a fool walks in darkness. So it's still, even on the horizontal level, it's still better to live according to wisdom than folly. But keep reading. Yet I also knew that one fate comes to them both. And again, this is the problem of life. You make $1 zillion, and we still bury you 6 feet underground. You have all the books and all the learning and a dozen PhD degrees, all the rest, and you still die. So I said to myself, what happens to the fool will also happen to me. Why then have I been overly wise? And I said to myself that this is also futile, for just like the fool, there is no lasting remembrance of the wise, since in the days to come both will be forgotten. It's not just death that bothers Solomon, it's the fact that we die and we're forgotten. How is it that the wise person dies just like the fool? Look at verse 17. Oh, what a verse. Therefore, I hated life, because the work that was done under the sun was distressing to me, for everything is futile and a pursuit of the wind. I hated all my work that I had labored at under the sun, because I must leave it to the one who comes after me, and who knows whether he'll be wise or a fool. In Solomon's case, the son who took the throne after him was a big fool. Yet he will take over all my work that I labored at skillfully under the sun. This too is futile. So I began to give myself over to despair concerning all my work that I had labored at under the sun. When there is a person whose work was done with wisdom, knowledge, and skill, and he must give his portion to a person who has not worked for it, this too is futile and a great wrong. For what does a person get for all of his work and all of his efforts that he labors at under the sun? For all his days are filled with grief, and his occupation is sorrowful. Even at night his mind does not rest. He can't sleep. This too is futile, emptiness, meaningless vanity. I'm sorry, get a little carried away here, but I do like this book. For there is nothing better for a person than to eat, drink, and enjoy his work. And just wait, stop here, because maybe the way I'm reading give you the wrong idea. This is not sarcasm. This is a important conclusion here. Solomon says, we live, we die, we're forgotten. It's very frustrating and discouraging. So why not just give up? Why not just drop out of life? One of the important conclusions is coming early in the book here. There is nothing better for a person than to eat, drink, and enjoy his work. I have seen that even this is from God's hand, because who can eat and who can enjoy life apart from him? For to the person who is pleasing in his sight, he gives wisdom, knowledge, and joy. But to the sinner, he gives the task of gathering and accumulating in order to give to the one who is pleasing in God's sight. This too is futile and a pursuit of the wind. In light of the many unanswerable questions of life. How then should we live? We should enjoy the life God has given us in spite of its frustrations, confusions, unanswered questions, in spite of the cul-de-sacs of life where we go down a road and it apparently goes nowhere. Because who can eat and who can enjoy life apart from Him? To enjoy the life you've been given is a great blessing from God. Chapter 3. Chapter 3, this is famous. The song, was it by the Birds? Gave us the song based on this passage. Ecclesiastes 3. There's an occasion for everything and a time for every activity under heaven. A time to give birth and a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to avoid embracing, a time to search and a time to count as lost, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear, a time to sow, a time to be silent, a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. To everything turn, 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 because there is a season. This is Ecclesiastes 3. That's part of the answer. Understand, God is working out His purposes in the seasons of life. Some of them happy, some of them sad, some of them mountaintop experiences, some of them quite difficult, all of them from the hand of God. Read on. What does the worker gain from his struggles? I have seen the task that God has given the children of Adam to keep them occupied. Pay attention to verse 11. He has made everything, my version says, appropriate. He has made everything beautiful. I like that better. He's made everything beautiful. He's made it fitting for its time. He has also put eternity in their hearts, but no one can discover the work God has done from beginning to end. I know that there is nothing better for them than to rejoice and enjoy the good life. It is also the gift of God. Wherever anyone eats, drinks, and enjoys all His efforts, I know that everything God does will last forever. There is no adding to it or taking from it. God works so that people will be at awe of Him. Whatever is, has already been, and whatever will be already is. However, God seeks justice for the persecuted. I also observe under the sun, there is wickedness at the place of judgment, and there is wickedness at the place of righteousness. In other words, where we think in the government, in the seat of the learning, in the great halls of justice, there's injustice, there's wickedness all over the place. I said to myself, God will judge the righteous and the wicked, since there is a time for every activity and every work. I said to myself, this happens so that God may test the children of Adam, and they may see for themselves that they are like animals. He didn't say we're animals, but we're like animals. For the fate of the children of Adam and the fate of animals is the same. As one dies, so dies the other. They all have the same breath. People have no advantage over animals, since everything is futile. That sounds hopeless, doesn't it? I'll come back to that. All are going to the same place. All come from the dust and return to the dust. Who knows if the spirits of the children of Adam go upward and the spirits of animals go downward to the earth? I have seen that there is nothing better than for a person to enjoy his activities, because that is his reward. For who can enable him to see what will happen after he dies? And there are some people who think this is cynicism. It is not. It's just sober statement of truth. Apart from the revelation of God and His Word, we really don't know. Go out and walk in the cemeteries. I've done many times, in fact. Walk among the tombs, the graves. This point Elizabeth Elliot liked to make. You don't know. You don't know. You can't walk through a cemetery. I mean, a cemetery of people you don't know. Go to one of these old cemeteries, people buried in the 1800s, sometimes back in the 1700s. Go to New England, people buried in the 1600s. You don't know. You don't know who these people were. Kind of illustrates Ecclesiastes in an old cemetery. You read these names, born 1604, died 1626. You don't know. Who even remembers these people? I mean, maybe somebody does, but most people don't. They're just names. And you don't know just by looking. That's his point. You don't know where you bury a dog and you bury a human being. You don't know just by looking. It's the revelation of God that tells us. We just read 2 Corinthians. To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. But you would never figure that out on your own. God has to reveal that to us, and God has done that. Ecclesiastes does not contradict 2 Corinthians. He's just asking, from the standpoint of this life, what can we know? Actually, his answer is, there's a whole lot you can't know just from the standpoint of this life. But we can know this: there is a God who cares for us. He's given us something to do. He's given us a life to live. He's given us a reason to get up. And it is a great blessing if in the midst of all the other unanswered questions, you get up and enjoy the life that God has given you. Why? Because he says, and I got to wrap up. Oh man, I'm talking too much on that. I've thought a lot about this book. There's a lot in here. Ecclesiastes 3:11. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Everything. I love R.C. Sproul, what he says about God's sovereignty. God knows what he's doing, and he's doing it. There's a lot that doesn't look beautiful to me, but that's only because I can't see. I don't have a big picture of life. But everything has its purpose, and he's put eternity inside your heart and my heart. You used to talk about that God-shaped vacuum inside every human heart. He has made us to know him. As Augustine said, our hearts are restless until they find rest in him. So, my friends, go out and have a great day. This is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? Don't worry about it. God's already there. Come to think of it, who knows what's going to happen later today? Don't worry. Your life, your destiny, your future is in the hands of Almighty God. We can trust him. This day is beautiful because he made this day for you and he made you for this day. So go out, no matter what else happens, enjoy this day to the glory of God. Have a great God-blessed day. Man, there is so much more here. Come back tomorrow. We're going to go deeper into the book of Ecclesiastes. I can't wait. See you then. God bless.